mostly a zoomed out version of how we think numbers should shape stories. And Kathampari is also going to talk about Bhumi's case in specific on how they are leveraging data, how they are building stories, etc. Right? Most of my PPT is chat GPT generated. So it will be great if we guys can document questions while I speak, or if you have any ideas to share, better to take notes, because it will be as interactive as you ask me questions, I'll be able to quickly answer. But whatever Kadambari is showing is not ChatGPT generated. She has done the hard work. So before I start this, building narratives is a very, is an art, right? This 1 hour is not about how do we build narratives. And I personally am not equipped to teach you that, right? People take years to understand how to build the right stories. What we will be talking about today is mostly what metrics and data you should have handy so that you can build those narratives and shape them as you please, right? And data is a good surrogate, right? So what currency is to value. We have a currency note is a good surrogate of value, right? Data is to the work that you do on the field. So it's important that some people react to certain surrogates, right? So some people would react to an input metric, how many hours of volunteering did you do, or how many tuition classes did you actually take, what is the student learning outcome it generated, and what is the livelihood increment in salary or income does it generate. So people react differently to different surrogates. We'll talk about that today. So just keep that in mind, whatever we are talking about today. Many of us may not believe that this is the right metric to measure for my organization. We'll talk about broad constructs, and you guys will pick and choose what suits your organization, your narrative, but these will come in handy when you build your narratives, right? So can I get a clicker? Okay, thank you. So let's start with that. What is that one metric that you would want to measure? And there are no two metrics. What is that one metric you would, or you're already measuring, that you believe would help measure success? Volunteering hours. What else? Any new number? Impact on the volunteer. Give the unit to it. Number of hours is a unit. Okay, awesome. EQ. Number of volunteers. Volunteer per capita. What does that mean? Give a
Basically, for example, let's say you have 10,000 employees and then only 7,000 employees participate. But the calculation is done dividing the total number of volunteering hours by the total number of employees in the organization. So that will give you per employee how much contribution they are giving per hour.
Okay. Awesome. Perfect. Employee by? Okay. Impact per rupee spent. Okay. Okay. Impact. How do you measure that? Per rupee spent is clear. Per rupee saved. So if let's say your impact is increase in student learning outcome.
Can you all use the mic so that it's recorded on the video?
So for
How loud you are, get the mic and then talk.
Yeah.
So for example, there's a school painting activity. So if the school had to do that activity on their own, how much would they have paid for it? And what is the cost to the corporate in which we got it done, along with volunteering hours included? So that was basically the thing which is money saved for the school, getting it done for them.
Okay. Yeah, but like she mentioned, sometimes when volunteers do it, it may actually be slightly
Exactly,
more expensive. Does that not justify doing volunteering?
No, absolutely not. Just one of the metrics which we
So it's okay
look
to be
for.
expensive at times.
The point is, what are we, again, the question comes to the point that what is the story we are going to tell. So one of the metrics we always keep in handy is it cost effective? Yeah.
Awesome. Any other numbers? Yes, sir.
Another metric could be how many volunteers converted to full-time employees in an organization. That could be another success.
Great. But the question was, is that the only thing that you would measure for success of your volunteering
No.
program?
This is one of them.
Okay. Awesome. Great. Yes, please.
Major metrics measuring is how many volunteers they gave the timings to one cause of work, and how it is the impact to the society. Is any make changes and any benefit for the beneficiaries. That kind of measurement we can see.
Perfect. Awesome. So this is great. I think we are thinking in the right direction. Just wanted to share a couple of examples when Kathampari and I were discussing about how to put this forward to you guys. So these are two statements. One on left, one on right. Which do you relate with more? You are a donor to an NGO who reports to you this. Second one. This one. Second one. But what's wrong with the first one? It's the same thing. Okay, let's look at this one. Only metrics are there. Context is missing. Right. By the way, this is not the best way of presenting it. So this was just top of the mind thinking. It's just that there's a difference between the left and the right. Just to bring that context out, we had put together these statements. But essentially, whenever we are looking at what metrics should we have to build such a story or build such a context, we need to zoom out a little bit and look at what data first should we gather, right? And I'm taking this from some examples, and Kathampari will also talk about these examples. I think this is the old PPT. Could you please? Yeah.
I understand your pain.
Yeah. So there are, just like there is, to achieve a certain thing, you need, okay, let's take skills parlance, right? So you have a hard skill and you have a soft skill, right? With data, there are some human-centered metrics, which are softer metrics, and then there are harder metrics, which are about your performance as an organization. So whenever we look at having data, this side generally helps in building trust. These may not constitute data, but they actually help putting a story across. I'll give you a very simple example. If you are talking about the number of hours of volunteers went into increasing student learning outcomes by 10% in the last year, it will be awesome to actually see that this is from a survey of 1,000 volunteers who worked in Bhumi, in shelter homes, etc., etc. So this actually builds that, the aspect of what is the context, why are you saying this, or what makes you say this, right? If it is human, where people can relate to it, for example, the number of trees I planted actually absorbs the carbon of 500 cars, is something which is so much more relatable than planting 1,000 trees, right? And so on and so forth. So for example, there are some metrics which are so clear and concise, very difficult to judge, which are not. But if I say that the employee satisfaction rate in my organization is 80%, there is little ambiguity in it, right? Employee satisfaction rate is a available metric. A lot of organizations do it. But if you beat around the bush to prove that, it's generally difficult for people to absorb. So on the left-hand side are generally those aspects which help you put your message across in a more human manner. And on the right-hand side, we all know the theory of change. It's important to put your input metrics, your output metrics. I mean, don't need to talk about that in detail. Kathampari is also going to touch upon those aspects. In the previous examples that we had shown to you, we did have a mention of an input metric, how many hours of or how many trees planted, etc. The trickle-down impact, though not many of us could be fans of it, is generally difficult to prove. But the fact that when you increase student learning outcomes by X percentage, the family income goes up by Y percentage. Or when you make a mother of a family digitally literate, then the financial conditions of the family improve by X percent. So when your impact is very simple to understand, how much of digital literacy I taught to that lady, but did it really impact in financial well-being of the family? It's a more observed trend, very difficult to ascertain. I personally, whenever I see a trickle-down effect, I feel that there is something fishy, but difficult to prove otherwise. But I've seen a lot of organizations do it, and it plays really well. Outcome metrics is, any which ways. Can we go next? Yeah. So if there was only one thing you could take away from our session, this is that slide. So when we look at volunteering, thanks to Karthi Vidya from Team Everest, he taught me this, and I've always subscribed to this. So when you look at a volunteering funnel, it basically says that at the top of the funnel are large number of volunteers. It has a wide entry to the funnel, but they're generally lesser committed people. They're in the awareness stage of doing good. And as you go down the funnel, you see that lesser number of volunteers deeply committed doing a lot of work. Based on which organization you are, or which program of your organization operates which part of the funnel, your metrics that you will gather and the story that you will narrate will be very different. So based on, if you are able to place your organization, so for example, some may say that I only work with 500 volunteers. I am surprised when this organization says they work with 10,000. It's because, please observe where in the funnel are they. Are you operating somewhere here? Are they operating somewhere here? Right? So just look at the effort going into managing those volunteers is also that much more. Next, please. Next. 2 more clicks. Yeah. So when I asked you what metrics would you measure for your organization, most of you guys said something like this. These numbers that you all mentioned, and they're all listed here. If you're on the top, you generally keep yourself busy with these metrics. When you go down, you generally keep yourself busy with these metrics. But often what we do not understand is that this is a metric from the organization's perspective, and we want to improve all of those metrics, but what we often forget is what are those metrics from the perspective of the volunteer. These are all judging our performance as an organization. Can you click next? Go back. What to ask a volunteer? If you are ever doing a survey, please try to get metrics around these objectives. And I think it will change your perspective of how do you tell stories thereafter, right? What's the motivation of volunteering? At each level, of course, when you go from top to bottom, the metrics will again change. Motivation of volunteering, what did you expect versus what really happened? Are you likely to continue? What's your perceived impact? What did you make a difference in today? What is the skill that you developed? What's impact on self? What's your direct impact on the community? Or what's the capacity you built with the community? So as you go down, as you become an advocate, I mean, the role is also changing, and hence the metric is also changing, right? So if you look at the levers that you have to engage citizens in the same funnel, when you're on the awareness stage, the activity that you share with them to hook them in is very different. So for example, in one of the programs, I mean, as a volunteering platform that we run, digital platform, we have given these as levers for you to engage volunteers in. So for example, how to run a weekend NGO, or how to start your first beach cleanup drive, is a small half an hour course on our platform. As an employee of a company, I can go, this is where I start because I'm an armchair volunteer, right? I've not really lifted my bum to go out anywhere, but this is where I start, right? I maybe donate 50, 100, 200 rupees for something. But then some friends pull me into a weekend event on a beach cleanup drive. And then I decide to do a 3-month project. I decide that I will spend 6 months in doing something with with an NGO, or probably do a 2-year fellowship. And then my transition happens to becoming a social entrepreneur. I want to start my own nonprofit, right? So that's the commitment level as you go down. For each stage, important to understand how do you onboard them, how do you engage them, and how do you retain them. They're all very different for each stage. The platform that we've been talking about, it actually helps you measure this at what stage you are. तो onboarding का metric है आपने कितना certificate दिया इस साल के अंदर. Certificate तभी दोगे, you will give the certificate only when the person has delivered impact, that micro event that they did. Don't look at RSVPs, please. Right? I'm sure a lot of us do RSVPs to our event, but 30% of them turn up. People are laughing, smiling. Yeah, we all know that. The fact is that how many people actually stayed to the event, they gave feedback to the event, etc. And therefore, if you look at a person who is wanting to become a social intrapreneur or an entrepreneur or a fellowship or a fellow, what is it that they're getting onboarded for? What's inspiring them? What's keeping them engaged? And what's keeping them coming back? These will be your metrics for drivers. So this is a framework, one more framework, and then I will switch to Kathampari. Because I get an opportunity to work with small, medium, large organizations, even governments, this is my abstraction of what I see them doing, right? If you see a small non-profit working with volunteers, by the way, the x-axis is the size of the organization, and y-axis tells them the four parameters that they use to run their organization: alignment to a cause, control in running their organization, how do they acquire volunteers, and who do they partner with, or how do they deliver their work to the beneficiaries. Smaller organizations generally start with saying we are cause agnostic. But what they actually mean is I care about the volunteer. If they come, I will engage them in what they want, they came to me for. Founder-led generally, or a core team engages with them. They acquire people through social media, and they are generally direct-to-customer model. Look at the extreme end of large organizations. I generally work with B2 government, B2G, or large government initiatives, or direct-to-consumer. It's a funny thing that you start when you're small, direct-to-consumer, and as you become a large organization, you again wish to become a direct-to-consumer organization. I have many examples and names of organizations I want to say, but I'll reframe. Sorry? It's a B2B, B2C business. That term I'm using, right? So a medium organization, for example, many of us are service providers for corporates who engages their employees to do volunteering, right? So this somewhere in small to medium. And generally when you see a large organization, they work with direct to volunteer or direct to citizen. And if you look at what's their cause alignment, is generally one mission at a time when it's large organizations, right? They're mostly community led by control. So they will have a chapter model or a zone model, very decentralized, ability to make decisions on their own, etc. And they generally work with the country's governments or institutions like NSS, municipalities, MHRD, etc. And therefore, your metrics and your narratives will be accordingly. I'll take a pause here. I will come back after Kathampari shares an example of how Bhumi, what Bhumi measures, how they measure, how they capture data, and come back to stage just to close. Go
Thank you, Satyam. Okay, guys, please wave your hand, like post-lunch session. A lot of talking done by Satyam. So, for some reason, the organizing committee have clubbed us both from two different worlds. You might be like wondering why a volunteer manager is here to talk about data. Believe me, I'm very relevant because I have been that all. That volunteer who have been very reluctant to mark my attendance in the application. That volunteer leader I was who used to fight that we don't need an KPI for this organization. There was an history there. And now as a volunteer manager, I would say like I have like become a data-driven person. I like totally believe or I fully believe that the loop or the cycle is not complete for any impact of any social action is until we record it, report it, and share it. If like we are unable to capture any data or any action, what the volunteers are doing, the number of volunteers we have mobilized for in our organization, and like if we are unable to like create meaningful insights from that for us to grow, right? I don't feel that the loop is complete. So with this context, so I will move forward. It could be basics for all, but I thought I will do it as an co-creating session so that we could all like chat about it, how we could decide goals for our organization, for which like what data is very important, how to get that data, how to consistently get that data from our volunteers. So next 20 minutes of real-time experience sharing would be done here. I'm sorry. Okay, this is something which I learned very recently, not an expert with data, but as volunteer mobilizers, all of us have been dealing with three different type of data. We are like stuck at different stages, I would say. First one is profile data. Obviously, it's the input metrics or the input data what we get. We keep receiving simple as the sign up information what we get. The second one is the transactional data, the real challenging part for us, like what did they actually do, the profiles we have created for our organization, the engagement, the activity tracking part, and finally the inferential data. Most of us don't get there. We are stuck with the transactional part, but it's no, Doc used to always say, like, it's very, you cannot improve unless you don't measure it. So, and it's not just enough to just measure it, but also to dive deeper, derive insights, and to create lessons from that. So the connection here is like why I'm talking about KPI metrics and data. So it's not just enough to deal with data, get data. Uh, your data of the lot of data, I would say, as an organization, we have those important ones which really matters becomes our metrics, and our metrics will be flowing into our performance measuring key performance indicators. Saying this, I would like to ask a question, like how many of our organizations here have set up goals for the year or for our programs, whatever? Great. Can we like come up with some examples, like the goal, how are you measuring it, or just the KPI, what you are using to measure its success? Couple of sharings would be great. Meanwhile, like, please have your pens
Please
open.
raise your
I
hand so
want
that we
us to
can,
really
pass
write
the
down
mic there.
because the intention here is when we walk out, we should be going out with a plan. Like, what are the data we are going to be like using it to create our own KPIs for our org. So please participate.
For us at eVidyaloka, it works mostly from a demand side, how the goal gets set. For example, this year, if I have to support 700 schools, I have 700 schools where there is need for X number of subject teachers. Then I'll have to work backwards and then say I'll have to get 4,000 volunteers so that these many offerings or sessions can be fulfilled. So that's one benchmarking way we work.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
In our case, we have multiple locations of Bosch as a company. So each location we have targeted at least a kind of number of projects that we have in that location. So in that location, how many activity or initiative we are taking up, and how many volunteers are participating for that thing, and what It's not about the budget. Of course, it causes more budget to spend on that particular thing, but it will help us to measure the interest of the volunteer who come repeatedly for that particular kind of activity, their interest area. And when there is a repetitive number of volunteer, then we can measure the impact that they created by them. So repetitive volunteer, that's one way we use to capture, and also total number of initiative. And sometimes it's a one-time initiative, but if, for example, if we taken up the beautification of a school or Anganwadi, so how many Anganwadis that we have beautify, so that kind of data that we usually capture. And of course, usually volunteering hours related with these things.
Thank you.
Number of trees planted and 80% surviving after a year. Number of youth skilled and how many we place in jobs.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. So I would request you to just write down one particular goal which will define your organization's success. So why I'm repeatedly saying this is without the outcome which you are visualizing for, there is no point in intaking the data in first place. So yeah, write down about it. Yeah, we have spoke about this. Your data, the connection here is your data becomes your metric, and your data having KPIs will help you transform your data into meaningful goals and measurable outcomes, which is in turn is going to enable you to track your progress, have a realization of about how your program has been performing, and importantly, having an insights on the trend analysis. Not just by knowing the trend analysis, you would be able to make a very data-driven decisions. Like you are backing up your decision with a very concrete backup of data. So with this, and again, coming to data integrity here, having this in place, you would be building a credibility with donors and stakeholders. Wanted to mention a few words about the first point. Every organization, we have different programs, be it the goal is one. Every program might be having a different, what is the number of volunteering hours clocked in your organization? Can someone quickly say? And just one or two answers for last year. Say 5,000. Are you sure that another representative from Bosch would be also sharing the same number?
That same report I give to anyone, they'll count the same number of hours.
Yeah, this is the crest behind it. So your data, the integrity of your data is fully maintained when you have one common source for the data tracking system in your organization, and this is going to build your credibility. And doing all this, you're going to directly or indirectly streamlining your monitoring and evaluation process. Talking we have spoken about the profile data and the transaction data and all, how are we going to infer meaningful insights from the data what we have been receiving, and both the static and the dynamic data whatever we have been having. I thought I will put some examples here. I will share one, others can also do the same. So when talking about profile data, as a volunteer manager, or whoever it is, I am not very keen about the gender of the profile or the age, because what matters to me the most is their location, their contact information, and what are their skill sets are. So the profile data which I prefer is skill set, location, and might be in case what are their interests? Are they interested in virtual volunteering or on-ground activity? These 4 fields are more than enough for me to decide what kind of segmented communication, targeted communication this particular profile must be receiving. So my one point here is keep your profile data, keep your sign up, your inflow of data as short as possible. Nobody is interested in filling a very long form. We were collecting blood group. We had reasons for it. We were thinking that at some point of time we would be using their organization information or their other personal things. But later realization was we were using none of it. The only communication, the thing which was helping us to communicate was what their preference were. So might be you could have L1 levels or L2 levels, but having an L1 short, simple inflow of profile data is more than enough for any organization. saying this, with that profile data and with the attendance of transactional data, I would be able to infer that people with the skilled skill set or technical skills are more likely to get into virtual volunteering opportunities. Or you could say that people or volunteers who are from colleges or students who don't prefer any particular skill set are more likely to get into on-ground activities. Having this will infer you to have a very focused communication to that particular set of audience. So pausing here, anyone who would like to share such case which you have been following with the inferential data in your organization, so that it could be used as reference for others.
We have around 21 institutions under the university. I'm talking about academic volunteering. So we use data to see which institute is participating more, as well as in which month activity is more or less. So that mostly we find what is the reason behind it, because of examination or some other event. So we try to plan more of less efforts in those month, so that logistics will be saved, because we are planning everything and less number of volunteering turning up. So we try more of virtual we can do during that time, so that we can utilize the logistic better way. So we use that tracking.
Absolute example for an inferential data. Okay, this was the working part I mentioned. Satyam was telling that I'm being very transparent. I took the privilege of sharing everything here. So working back with what I was sharing so long, you have noted down that one goal, right? So what would be the three results which you are expecting for you to realize the success of the goal, progress of the goal? I'm going to present a case study here along with the data inflow and how we have been doing it. Bhumi, with the goal to be the most preferred civic volunteering organization, we had this clocking X number of volunteering hours to increase the recurring volunteering hours and increase the NPS by 10 to 20%. NPS is a very beautiful concept which I'll be covering in the later part. So with this thing, we had quick KPIs, which was reviewed month on month, and the KPIs, what we felt was crucial is to know that how many volunteers we have been recruiting, and how many of the event participating volunteers were engaged, and of them, how many have been carried forward for the next thing. So this was something which we were doing. And any guesses on what was the data types and forms through which we were able to infer this KPI? They have given me a time check, so I'm not going to ask any more questions. I will. So simple. So having an inflow of the profile data, online sign-up form, it could be either people who are interested in volunteering or your direct event sign-ups. And then non-negotiable is the attendance tracking, real-time attendance tracking, I would suggest, right after you are closing the event. When it comes to recurrent volunteering, this is a catch here. This is something qualitatively treated. You cannot be this is not obtained directly by inputting any efforts in. For which we thought there are several things to be done to improve the volunteering experience, like bringing in recognition, bringing in the leadership supporting sessions. All these are not directly related, but inferred that by doing this, we are giving better experience for our volunteers, and which is qualitatively measured. So this is where NPS come in. Are there any organization who have been dealing with NPS or feedback for your organization? Just raise your hands. Survey methods. Thank you for that, Meha. Sorry. I wanted really to talk about NPS because I didn't know about it last year until we had this particular goal. We were definitely having a feedback survey. Every year end, we used to have a feedback survey. We used to receive feedback from our volunteers. But this one number which you really have to improve is directly proportional to the quality or the experience you have been offering for your volunteers. I wouldn't say here it's as volunteers. We take the opportunity to ask this particular question. considering your recent volunteering experience with Bhumi, how likely are you suggest to your friends, and an open-ended box where they can give their feedback. This doesn't it's not limited to just volunteering experience. Even after an orientation, even after having a first level of engagement, and timely NPS, just to have a realization of what is going right and what is going wrong is very important. And people participating on this have been relatively less. But then people who really wanted to convey the unpleasant experience or something which would support your organization, they were taking this opportunity. They felt that they were heard. So I would suggest on bringing in a data system to track the experience of your volunteers, which in turn is going to improve the recurring volunteers, not one-time volunteers. When they have been done a meaningful engagement, they are going to come back again. This is a very sample system. I just wanted to say that we worked on this of the 40, 50 data entries. When we wanted to have an application, we worked on this to know where does our prospect volunteers are coming in. One through the website sign up, and other through the event registration. So I thought I would just pause here to have a glimpse. So these are the ways we were having in data flow of the signups. The choice is yours. It's not very mandatory to have a very fancy application to collect data. You could have any version of it. But which is non-negotiable here is to have a data in place and to convert it into your metrics, which is going to track your progress. Real-time challenges. I don't have absolute solution for the challenges, but I have been dealing with these challenges for some years, so I have some, insights or suggestions to give, how we could tackle this. First three are same, we don't get data from our volunteers. As in, I told, we feel content once the event is done. I am done. I felt the pleasure of volunteering, everything is done. So how to bring this as a culture? So I feel as volunteer mobilizers or managers, we should be we should be the change. We should be a data-driven person in first place. Set this very primary expectation right when you are taking in your volunteers. Just like you are telling, right, you have to come in, you have to do this, the R&R, whatever you tell to your volunteers. Make it mandatory to tell that post the event or whatever it is mandatory to record your participation. Not just volunteers. It is one of the primary responsibilities for our volunteer coordinators. And as a full-timers, as volunteer managers, when it comes to recognition, when it comes to whatever it is, we have to stick to data. We receive emails from people from 5-6 years back telling that, sending pictures, telling that I have volunteered with your organization. Can you send me a social responsibility certificate? I never do that. I have data from 26. I used to go back, verify the data. I used to at times we feel, right, they have done something, why should we not do this? But this is something which is creating a loophole in our system, and we are being leisure with data. And at the end, when it comes to data integrity, this is being a big drawback for us to get things non-negotiable. So first 3 points are with us. We should be the change to make it as a culture in our organization to get data, for them to realize why data is important. One last example I will say here. So we have that branded annual award system for our volunteers. We take that opportunity to recognize volunteers. For a particular city, we didn't have data, regular inflow of engagement data for a year, and because of which we cancelled the recognition of the year. Later years, they had it coming in. So what I'm trying to say here is, having a source for the engagement is mandatory, be it in whatever form, but keep it is what I'm trying to say here. And data integrity, we have spoken enough. Data privacy, just one point. Data privacy comes with just profile data. I am very sure that not everyone is going to be having access with your profile data. Profile data, I mean here the entire sign-up of your organization. That thing to be kept in mind. Transactional data it's okay to have, because that is where we are going to infer and all. About reporting and impact measurement, we just spoke. Any guesses here? What do you understand from this? So this was one of the goals. So thousands of volunteers clocking lakhs of volunteer hour, and we had zero profile data. Randomly, please, whatever you are thinking about.
You did a one-time event, got a lot of partners, but everybody will show up and didn't get any time.
Okay.
But how do you know the thousands and lakhs if you don't have any data?
Maybe you partnered with everybody and everybody else had data of your volunteers, but you didn't.
Could it be that
But
you
you did the effort,
use
but
the
you didn't get
volunteers, you had attendance to mark their coming, number of hours, number of volunteers, but you did not capture the data of their origins, their background, their the basic profile data. The basic
Got it.
profile data that you needed.
Very interesting. I didn't expect this many. Anyone else? What do you get from this?
What you are saying and what is seen is two different things. Like in sometimes newspaper, what you see, 1,000 people attended. Probably if you would have visited, 200 people might be there. So attended by thousands of people. So it's like that kind of data. If you don't have data, we can manipulate the data. It's not objective data actually.
Okay, thank you for that. So I would tell what actually happened here. So we conducted scaled campaigns, just like Meha told. We had signups from colleges and corporates. They are having the list of volunteers. They tell that thousands of volunteers have been participating, and you have the volunteering hours. But for the matter of you having who are those volunteers are, how you could use this potential volunteer leads to become your recurring volunteers, the thing is zero. So going back to the previous slides, we have achieved lakhs of volunteering hours. We have achieved whatever the other goals. But when it comes to recurring volunteer, there is a fallout here. With what as source, we are to convert this one-time volunteers into recurring volunteers. So this was one huge lesson we had last year. I thought it would, we all have that fixed thing, right? Corporate don't give profile data. Colleges don't give profile data. We were also dealing with the same scenario, like myself and Satish used to discuss. We don't have profile data. How can we convert them into our recurring volunteers? But we know that for the matter, these thousands of students have participated in the event. So some things which we tried last year, it didn't work fully, but then we have started receiving profile data from large-scale campaigns as well, which was, I thought I will share it here. So these volunteers, we were giving the certificates to the colleges. Instead, what we have changed now is they can sign up to receive their own certificates through which we were receiving their profile data. This is one way. Second thing is we started hosting capacity building session to this college volunteers. So we also kept a cap, I believe. Like people who have been volunteering in the campaigns will get slots in this session. And for this session, you would have to sign up, RSVP. Though we had 20 people attending the session, we were receiving RSVPs and we know who these profiles are and who have been volunteering with us for the upcoming campaigns. For corporates also, we have tried something similar. Not to say that, of course, they have a very, very... they have system, they have processes. It's not been protocols. They are not been sharing data. But some corporates who are willing to open up for community engagement, not just employee engagement, but also open for all other events. They were open to sharing the corporate sign-up forms to their employees. Just that they were not coordinating and conducting an event, but they were cascading the information. So somehow we have managed to get this thing sorted. Yeah, I'm pausing here. We all know this. Might be we could take a quick glimpse of what are the best practices are. I think we don't have time. 1 minute. Okay. I will invite Satyam quickly to... I'm sorry, Satyam.
Very well. Thank you so much. See, I was thinking while she was speaking, is that whenever we order on Flipkart, Zepto, have we ever given them any data? Have they done any data capture with us? But that is so implicit. Thank you for saying this. They are capturing data, but they are not sending you a Google form. Right? You are just buying what you wanted to buy. You are booking a cab that you wanted to book. You're booking a ride that you wanted to book. But they have everything, all the transactions, all the profile data, all the inference data. I think as somebody from non-profit sector, it deeply pains me that our non-profits are in this run of capturing data from everywhere we want to. But that is not transactional data. We want to capture, we call it transactional data, that number of hours of volunteering, etc. is great. But we haven't learned a few things. We haven't learned to give that data back or use that data into an action. So for example, when you go on Zomato and when you switch from one screen to another, there is a loader that comes, and in that loader there is a small tagline to keep you engaged while the page has not fully loaded. Your loader, the tagline it will say is different for you, is different for me, is because I have been ordering biryani. It keeps me engaged with biryani quotes. While you have been ordering pizza, it will keep you engaged with pizza quotes. So who are they building the narrative with data for? For their customers, not for their donors. So if I were to capture data that this gentleman is very interested in climate change as a cause, I will take the transactional data, I will play it back to him only, not for a donor. Right? So I think the moment we learn that the transactional data is not for me to consume, is for me to give out enough action points for my volunteer in the same application, in the same form, in the same system, to act on it and take the next step, capture the data, take them, go to the next step, capture the data, and make them do more transactions, in this case, more volunteering. I think the narrative is for the volunteer, for them to do more and more of what they like to do. Right? I'll show you a couple of screens and I will switch off, and maybe you guys can then quickly ask questions. So some tools out there you could use. Sharing with you some screenshots next, if you could go. So these are some screenshots of some data metrics that our platform provides. So when you use any of these systems out there, not just Better Together, which is one of the systems I represent, but when you use it, you will actually have this data as default. You will not capture this data in a Google form. You are just asking them to use your platform. It is being captured and being shown to you. And therefore, let's go to the next slide. I want to show to you a few other things. This is demographics data. Go next. So look at this. Some of us actually had these metrics, and this is coming directly from the system, not derived from a Google or an Excel sheet. So my conversion rate from sign up to actually volunteering, number of people who come on my website versus who fill up the form versus who I recruit versus who actually volunteer. So I get to see the funnel जो हमने पहले funnel बनाया था, what actually is real funnel here. Go next. Yeah, so this is interesting. Now this is where taking the transactions to next level. As a volunteer, I am going and teaching in a shelter home, right? But I need to gamify it because anyways you don't give me your data of attendance. What do? I incentivize you for everything that you do on the system. So for example, if you are missing a class, there is a penalty for finding a penalty for not finding a substitute or missing a class. The point is -1. So you don't do this action, you are lower on the leaderboard. And if you look at so you start with 3. Everybody starts with 3, right? So you don't start with 0. But you see at various points, we have just structured the volunteer leader or that shelter home manager can decide how do I want to gamify my shelter home or how do I gamify my city. Click on next, please. And we create a dashboard on what is my rank, what is my points, where am I winning, where am I losing. So I'm trying to build habits by creating streaks, by giving some. So the transactions are being played back. Yeah, so I'll stop here. If you guys have any questions for Kathampari and me, we would love to.
So we'll just present the questions Mentimeter. So please log in. Yeah. So please use the Mentimeter code. One disclaimer, we know that the internet in this hall is slow. We know that. So request you to be patient for the page to load. Sorry? Yeah, we'll do that. But request if possible, please start putting in any questions. Please raise your hand. We'll get your mic there.
Work you do.
Thanks. Satyam, this one's for you. We spoke about data and, the basic, I think we've all been doing the hours, numbers, etc. What I didn't really understand is impact, right? How do you sort of build in capturing impact and narrating impact beyond the hours and numbers? Because even the examples were based on the basic capturing, but how do you sort of deep dive and...
Great. So I'll give you some examples. See, and I'm giving you a perspective of a technologist, not as somebody who's going to be implementing that technology as an organization. So for us, volunteering platforms are a horizontal, which means that it could be applied in any of those 17 SDGs. So volunteer management and engagement are generally not the levers that will create impact. Those are channels to create impact. Both technology and volunteering are horizontals. We have learned that in the market, if you are working in the agriculture domain, water, health, education, environment, you will need to create tools for the volunteers to do better job. So you will have a teaching app, you will have a mentorship app, you will have a tree planting app, so that they could do their work better. Those are also transactional systems. Only when people begin to use the systems, and then you will have all of those 4 metrics that you will measure. Some you will directly capture, some you will derive, some you will observe. For example, if I am going into a school to teach, then the number of hours, my attendance, is an input metric. We capture the attendance not just by capturing how many students are there in this class. We ask the volunteer to onboard all the students. And at every very frequent intervals, we ask the volunteer or a third-party agency to conduct an assessment. It's a very simple thing. We ask you 5 questions about ASAR level or FLN level. And then each student's report card is generated on the same system. Volunteer is only incidental. We are doing this for the child. Right? So I understand we are here more for volunteering, but I don't want to put horse behind the cart. Right? The horse is the cause for the technologist. Volunteering is the cart. So in this case, when we focus on the child and volunteer is a user of the application, we ensure when the child is the hero, or the tree is the hero, or the farmer is the hero, or the climate is the hero, we capture input and we capture output. The output is student learning outcomes. Aapka assessment hua, so you will see the report card of the child growing up, going down, marks going up, marks going down. That's just output. That is still not outcome. Outcome is derived. Now when outcome is derived, that's mostly observation. Based on your third-party metrics, you will use an M&E system, etc. And then there is a lifestyle metric that you will measure, that I spent $1 million in doing this. And that's just generally not the transactions.
It is what you're saying to the cause. It cannot be one.
It cannot be. And generally, those tools which are leveraged to capture domain-agnostic data are Google Form, Jot Form, Zen Forms.
To capture independent impact cause-based data?
Yes. There are actually, just Google, there are so many surveys for the cause. So if you're in livelihood, there are typical 7 surveys that are out there in the market. There is Progress Out of Poverty survey. Then there is socioeconomic survey and how you're growing on. So education, there will be some survey. ASAR level is that. So I think the sector have defined the key metrics you should measure. And those should not remain as surveys for which we are building transactional tools, that it should emerge out of the system as opposed to you going, knocking door, give me your data.
Hi, Satyam and Kathampari. This is for both of you. And anyone can also suggest. If you all can give 1 or 2 suggestions of futuristic ways of volunteer data management, which is not being done at present, futuristic ways.
I have a sore throat. Yeah, I will attempt.
Futuristic way as in like?
Like 10 years ago, OpenAI and all was unknown.
Correct.
Something like that.
So, I don't know how it is implementable or not, but sometimes I used to think that there could be some system where like a biometric kind of thing, a person just volunteers and records, and we have a system where like this profile I've done this, something which is automated. This is something which we talk about, and I don't know if it's like practical or what.
Yes,
I'm just like
CCTV cameras can capture. They're capturing in shops and
no, just like I'm marking my presence there just after volunteering, something which is an application or whatever, like just letting me know that a very authenticated one where I could say that I have completed this. And this sits in my, I don't know, Satyam can answer if these things could be done or not.
I just thought of it, very interesting question. It could be remote volunteering through virtual reality. If people's attendance and their ideas can be mapped through, did you log into virtual reality and the activities that you're doing? Maybe. I hope that's futuristic and that's possible.
See, virtual. It'll be a virtual problem. See, the concept of data dust is becoming very real. So I'll explain to you thoda sa layman language mein. So the clicks, the scrolls, your pauses, your shares to your friend, you type and then you delete. These are all being observed. They are not being, you think they're not being captured. Obviously, we all know Alexa listens to us all the time, right? Or iPhone listens to us all the time. This in the tech world is called data dust. It's dust. It's coming from the word when you eat a cookie, there are crumbs. So this is the same thing. So when you do activities on the system, you leave a lot of traces as dusts. And therefore, the TikToks and the Amazons of the world have learned to observe what all dust are you dropping and giving you a very customized experience. That means data is being captured. Even though you typed something and you deleted it on WhatsApp, they still know what thoughts you had. And the advertisement that is being shown to you next is around that. So this is not a prediction. I'm saying this is already happening. But for the volunteering sector, we need such tools where, and I'll give you one tactical example, the same shelter home app that we built for student attendance, because that's the most famous use cases that volunteers go teach in a classroom. The attendance capture was not happening. So we just built a very simple API to OpenAI and Gemini. All you have to do is just press your mic, say the names of the students who were not present. Data is done. So it just verifies that out of the 70 students in your class, did you say these 4 didn't come? Say yes. So you don't have to go through the jazz. You just have to talk, and it just helps. So these are some things that are happening now, but data dust is going to happen, let's say, in the next 2, 3, 4 years.
So a couple of suggestions for common good, platform commons. One thing, tool you all can make. One tool you all can make is for volunteer management. That volunteer management ecosystem, whoever is in the ecosystem, they put things in. You can make an AI tool with Gemini and whatever, OpenAI and whatever, and customize that whatever data they need from volunteers and other people, CSR and stuff. They put that. Obviously, you'll have to have multiple things, not just one, this thing. They put that in that AI system, and they get suggestions on what and how they can implement that. And if they are not happy with that, how in OpenAI, ChatGPT, we keep on giving better prompts. They give better prompts, and they get better answers. So that is for the volunteering management, one aspect. Other aspect, one more suggestion for platform commons and anyone who wants to implement is that for volunteers themselves, create tools where they put that, like the session was just happening parallel back there, I was there. I'm hopping around sessions. So they create a tool where if I want to volunteer, I put in data that I have, say, 10 hours a week. My interests are so-and-so. I want to, geographies are so-and-so, virtual, offline, virtual reality, what is my preference of volunteering. So these things I put and I get options at 10 NGOs, 20 NGOs, which offline, online, hybrid, these options I get. So these are couple of suggestions.
Anybody else, please?
So any example where you have used the data which you have recorded to make changes in your programs which are running or make a new program?
We have even called off programs which was not having the expected impact in the students' performance. I would request Satish to add more if possible. There were instances like NMMS for one example. It was an education initiative which was not having the impact which was it has to have, and like we had to call out on it. This is one thing where we have stopped it or changed it. Might be for the better also we have done. Satish, do you want to? So where, I mean, data-driven decision making, real-time example.
Please attend day 2 last session. I'll be sharing a failure spotlight.
Would love to hear success stories.
So one of the data-driven decisions which we took, maybe if I can just share some of the things, is one, when we realized, so we were teaching classes, and this was a couple of years back. We were teaching, we used to teach computers, and what happened is we saw that there were 25 classes that used to happen in a shelter home, but still the content which we used to teach doesn't move beyond Word or Excel, the basics, right? And we were figuring out, hey, why are these, I mean, you're having 25 sessions, so even if you consider 3-4, classes per topic, MS Office package should have been covered. So we were wondering why it is not happening. So when we went a little bit deeper in understanding, okay, what is the content being taught at each class and how much they were doing, we realized a very funny thing that volunteers were still teaching paint, which is fine because they want to increase the children's motor skills and everything. But they wanted children to be artisans in painting. In the paint app, they were expecting the children to make a very big fancy paints and everything, and they were spending almost 4 to 6 classes for paint alone. And we realized a simple thing that unless we have the option of teaching paint, people are going to keep doing it, so we removed paint from the syllabus. I mean, we did it earlier because we wanted the children to familiarize with the usage of mouse and the system, but we later also matured in understanding it can happen through Word and Excel also, so we completely removed it. And there are a lot of other examples like that, but this is one example from an education initiative which we did. When we found it to consume too much time, we took the decision in removing this subject.
Ashutosh, I feel most learnings are from failures than successes. Successes, I think it just keeps happening and you keep going. Hence, please share feedback. Please take out your phones. On WhatsApp also the links have come. You can just click the link. This is 1C. You can type out 1C and give your feedback. We need to know whether to let Kadam speak next time, Satyam speak next time. Based on your feedback only, we will decide that. Modi or Amit Shah?
We get 100% feedback, we can even make that work next time.
Good. He's promising like Modi now. Any other questions?
So one thing, I saw many of you taking your phones and taking photographs of the slides, right? Marking these feedbacks is a ritual which we are trying to incorporate after every session, because overall feedback we are going to have, and the people who are filling the overall feedbacks are only going to get the decks and everything. So request is keep practicing so that you don't miss it when it counts.
Okay, only 11 of you have filled the feedback. Kadam, very disappointing. Come on. Kadam is going to cry today.
Thanks,
Please give more
Doc,
feedback.
I don't know if this question is relevant, but if you feel you can comfortably can answer. What is the future of volunteering ecosystem development by Bhumi in the next 3 years?
Not relevant. We'll talk about it separately. I'm very comfortable answering it, but not relevant to data, numbers to narratives, how to use volunteer data to shape powerful stories. Yeah, for which you need to answer questions. Okay, thank you everyone. Kadam has to give the... Okay, Menti has moved to detailed feedback slide if you want to add, and networking break is on. So Kadam, request you to give a certificate of recognition to Satyam. No, only for you. Can we all give a big round of applause to Satyam and Kadam?